All right, welcome to week 3. And this week is led by Alicia. So I will let Alicia start and then I'll jump in however it turns out.
Okay, thanks, Mila. So we're on chapter 3, A Prismatic Landscape. And what came to me with just reading that title was, I have hummingbirds here. So I often am just watching them and seeing how the colors when they're moving are brilliant. But when they're not moving, they're just sitting still, not changing, not doing anything. They look quite dull. And that I had a feeling of when we allow ourselves to change and move, and when we allow more love and light to come in, we are like a prismatic landscape. Anyway, I had lots of visions about that particular title. So going into the first subject, first of all, as you know, there are like lots of things we could talk about, but these are the ones that I was nudged to include. And I felt
excited about the questions as well, Alicia.
I was, but I had about 10 different things. And
Good,
then
okay.
I got
Then
to like, I was like, okay, I can't decide what's going to be the best for me and for the group.
Got it.
And actually, when I read through again today, I was like, oh, I wish I'd done that one, or I wish I'd done that one. Yeah. But I felt like, no, these are the ones that we need at the moment. So that's why I left it at that. So the first one, I felt like this was about enthusiasm, curiosity, and change, actually. So page 20, it begins with, I am not, or was not in the other life, an enthusiast. I will continue. No person, however imaginative they might have been, would have used such a word in the delineation of my character. Cold, dull, unimpassioned, prosaic, phlegmatic, even stupid would have been considered appropriate epithets by many, but enthusiastic, never. And as you know, it continues, and towards the end of that same paragraph, the first paragraph, says, I was by no means inquisitive in the past, but since I had found myself here, I had done nothing but ask how, when, whence, or why. Also, I noticed in this paragraph how he's talking about a change in character and temperament. He's in a new place, new fields and surroundings. What's true in the past isn't necessarily true of the present. Is it permanent or is it changeable? So this whole thing I could feel relates also to our own lives, not just to him going from the earth life to the spirit world.
Yeah.
And also in the following paragraph, it says, being quite happy in my original position and having still a multitude of questions to ask, I was not in the least degree desirous of moving, even though I had been told of the greater beauties. So again, that's a sort of feeling of, we know there's something better, but are we willing to change? So a few questions, but all as one. Transitioning to the spirit world, did Afra change so dramatically, or was his natural personality quashed and unaccepted and unrecognized by others, and therefore, consequently, himself? And do you recognize these sort of unique seeds of your own character that have been unsupported or undermined by yourself or others? And how's this affected your life? And what steps can we take?
Basically, it's like, imagine that you have passed away like Afra at the top of first year, and and what do you think you will have been like there? And then you go, and somebody there would have supported whatever would have emerged out of you, and then compared to how you are now, and then see the contrast, and that will create for you the like, you know, what in me has been squashed because I wouldn't have dared to be like that here.
Yeah.
But as soon as I pass, how would you have been like if you're having Afra's experiences right now? And that will help you contrast with.
Yeah, thank you for that clarity, Mila. So would anyone like to jump in? Michaela?
Sorry, my kids were just a bit loud then, so I missed that last bit. But I didn't totally go in relation to your questions with this one, Alicia. What I was questioning about this section was like the fact that Afra got there and was able to be who he is, and to sort of flourish and to be so enthusiastic. I feel like there's a part of him, because he's been going there every night while he's been sleeping his whole life. So there was a sense of, I guess we learn pretty quickly as kids where we can be ourselves and where we can't be ourselves. So he learned that he couldn't be himself on earth, but he could be himself in the spirit world. So he was already ready to step into that place of being more open-hearted and recognizing that he was going to be received. So for me, the question kind of is like, which is a question that I know we've asked before, like, what can we do on our earth life that's going to make it so that when we go and when we are there all the time in the spirit world, we're in a place where we're ready to keep moving forwards rather than to stay stuck in something dark and dirty.
Yeah, beautiful. Actually, you also bring up the fact that even though I've asked questions, I feel like I've just put an emphasis on a particular part of the chapter, and I feel like it's important to hear what everybody else has gleaned from that part of the chapter too. So thanks, Michaela. So Virginia, you had your hand up. Are you still with your hand up?
Sure. I agree that with Michaela, that this was always his personality, his true personality, to have this enthusiasm. And I understand that because being of a curious mind myself, I know that was not encouraged for me to question everything. Like it was, how dare I?
Yeah.
And stop it. You know what I mean? And I think that is such a wonderful part of development that helped him so much when he transitioned and when he's in the spirit world, by being curious and wanting to know more and wanting to learn. That desire to learn this really has helped him, I think, a great deal. And having the humbleness and humility to be open to the learning and just be open and accepting to it. So
because we learn in the earlier chapters that he really did study the Bible. He really did investigate and really did kind of emotionally investigate the teachers, and like he did develop that curiosity for knowledge and truth. And then he couldn't find anything that satisfied him on earth, so he probably kind of shut it down. And then he appears to be unenthusiastic, but I guess he did get that part of him from reading books all the time. He did get a chance to, and took the chance to develop it. So once he passed, it just sprang up. But then also there's a whole sleep state experience. But then I'm also thinking of people that had a very heavy suppression. Sometimes it's like my dad, who was autistic. Like that's a heavy genetic suppression. There can be some huge cultural suppression. Then, they might not be able to jump into it right away. I'm just I feel sad about that.
Yeah, I agree that we've read that he has shown that he's curious about things, but he's not necessarily asking out there. He's curious, like reading books. He's curious reading the Bible. He's curious to know certain people, but it's not recognized. His curiosity is not recognized because people have certain beliefs and put him in a box that he's a bit crazy or something.
And he wasn't satisfied by it. But then maybe the takeaway we can take is that even if you don't find answers and your questions only drive pain because you can't find answers, stay in the question, stay burning in the question, stay in the struggle, stay in the misery of wanting to know, because then that keeps the candle alive. And then once you pass, off you go.
Absolutely.
So for later.
Let's see, Judith, would you like to share with us?
I actually watched Mary's videos on this, and it was real interesting because what they felt, and I kind of really agree with that, so I'm bringing it up, but it's like he must have felt his grief over being shut down in life at some point and being stepped on, because when he passed, he didn't have to do it in the spirit world, you know, having to feel that grief.
Good point.
So that's what I thought was real interesting, and how your question about what we can do to ourselves, and that's like, bottom line is just have to feel my grief and pain. I have to try and figure out how to get to that place.
Yeah, and to feel that grief and pain in order to develop my curiosity. But it's almost like I have to go backwards to feel, well, why am I not already curious and enthusiastic?
Right, right.
But I think once you start engaging that curiosity again, you will reawaken the pain that blocked it.
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of goes hand in hand. Yeah. Thank you. So thank you, Judith. Jill, like to share with us?
I just gonna continue on with what Judith said, and that I don't think he really recognized that within himself because he was suppressed, and he just never, because it was so suppressed, he was never even, probably didn't even think about, oh, well, I'm a curious person, or I'm an enthusiastic person, even though outwardly I get the impression that he probably was, because he tried to spread the word of the Bible, or spread the word of God, and he talked to people, and he did all this work with the less fortunate. And I feel like he actually was an enthusiastic person. He just never saw it, because the people that would have been close to him never saw it or squashed it and didn't want to see that he was this enthusiastic person. Yeah, so that's kind of where I got that from, that chapter.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Jill. Mila?
For me, I just had a bit of a shocker a couple of months ago when I identified, even intellectually, with the idea that I'm female, that I'm feminine, and felt some glimmers of my feminine nature. And I've shut it down. I shut it back down because the trigger of it's useless, who wants it, it's unwanted, rejection, all of that came up. And today, as I was walking here to work, I kind of go, I need to go back to that. And when I read this question, I'm feeling a lot of sadness about not knowing that I'm feminine and not ever developing it. Like, what a loss. I don't even know where to start. It's bringing up a lot of sadness for me. That, like, I don't even know it exists. So who knows what other qualities we have that we didn't even cross our mind to investigate.
Yeah, I didn't have femininity come up so much because I had creative expression. Like, I could feel how that's been quashed. Like, every time I was allowed to go so far, but no, that's enough. Not too much. Imagination in the same way, and even the care of others or the care of the environment. Like, what are you doing that for? Why are you helping that person? Because it was more associated with, why are you not helping the family? Rather than helping others or helping that stranger. Or the environment, picking up litter. Why are you bothering to do, lots of things I can see were just allowed so far, but not very far. And I can feel for myself that although I have some awareness of what some of my desires are, I'm not actioning them. And also I feel that will awaken the curiosity more, in put more action into it as an experiment. Like, okay, is this a desire or not? I'm not sure. Do I need other people involved, or would I just do it anyway? So experimenting more with that. And anyway, so in this particular one, because I brought up that part of, I've been told about these greater beauties, and then it continues on to saying about the,
oh, she froze.
being pulled back into addiction and beliefs and unloving relationships, etc.
You froze just now, so can you go
sorry.
back to, what was the part that you froze at? Just go back to the whole statement.
Okay, I was just wanting to reiterate how I'd actually mentioned about he was quite happy. Afro was quite happy where he was.
Yes.
It was beautiful, it was fine there. But Helen was encouraging him that there are greater beauties beyond here.
Yeah.
And him wanting to go back to teach immediately, practically.
Yeah.
But she's saying, but there are actually, you have a strong magnetic link. So if you go back to teach now,
yeah,
you're not going to continue on, and you're going to get pulled into that. And I can see how that happens in our personal lives,
okay,
with addictions and
right,
in addictions and our beliefs and relationships that we've been in that we realize are not really very beneficial at the moment. So yeah, I can see that is a sort of part of why we don't want to move on. But this is an encouragement in Helen and him realizing, yes, go forward, that there's more. And when you're aware of more, you won't be so attached, and you will still be able to go back, but you won't be attached to that.
To other people's grief.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's interesting. What she brought up there was that the grief people feel, because everything's driven by love, will pull you back. And I'm thinking, even when we're alive, as we challenge our addictions and grow, the grief of the people, codependent people that are now going to get left behind, will try to, keep us back in our place. Like, that probably applies here as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Señorita Selena.
I was exploring some aspects of what happened to Afrar based on some stuff I was working on for myself, and just like everyone, he in his death, that was a law of attraction event. He's just like everybody else, so he had a premature death, a law of attraction, so based on injuries and stuff, just like us, and and it was quite an early demise. So I just find that interesting, because he really didn't have the opportunity in his life to explore his desire to help others. That who knows what he could have created if his attractions hadn't allowed him to be killed. He may have created orphanages or been active in passing laws in the workhouses, or done, like, he was still kind of wallowing in his I'm just a cast off where in my society, but I can help these other people and feel good. But maybe if he had stayed alive longer, he would have eventually been able to cast off that stuff and found his enthusiasm in that place, because that was his passion. And he just needed to, like, I was just thinking, oh man, there's probably all kinds of people he could have found that wanted to do what he's doing and supported him and found the money and the support, amongst the people that he knew had money and all that, Yeah. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, because we'd see that, because it turned out so well, his death, it still was an event, an attraction event, a premature death. Obviously there was maybe his depression, maybe it was his lack of enthusiasm, maybe that created that, his desire not to be there, his desire to feel like such a cast off and misanthrope in the world.
Considering how he said, there's nothing attracting me back, I'm good, I can move on.
Yeah.
So wasn't much.
And especially considering how much good he was doing, those people would have missed him, obviously, the people that he was helping. Yeah.
Good point. Thank you, Selena. Yeah, I like that. So anything else they want to add before we move on? Yep. Okay, so we're going on to page 23 and 24, which is basically about love, about the secret key and duty of love. So Eusemos, who is the person who he first met on the hill.
Wait, wasn't Eusemos the one who took him? at the moment of death too.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
remember that. Oh, yes.
Like
That's
he was
great.
the one that grabbed Afrar at the moment
Okay.
of passing and took him to the other side on top of
And
the
is he the one then who took the child from him?
that I don't remember. No,
I thought that was
somebody else.
Okay, that was someone else who we don't, oh, maybe we don't know who that is then. Okay, so anyway, Eusemos says to Afra, are you rested? Yes, but so bewildered, Afra says. In the spirit world, oh, I should be looking at it here because I didn't write it properly there. In the spirit world, bear with me.
No.
Oh yes, I haven't written it all on my notes. So may I start again? Are you rested now? He asked at length. Yes, I answered, but so bewildered. This is by no means an uncommon experience. The revelations that await the soul on arrival here are calculated to overpower until you have been taught the simple key by which everything is solved. Who will teach me this grand art of solution? I asked. I will, if you desire to know it. When? Now, if you wish. Who would not wish to learn so great a secret? My soul is hungering for such knowledge. What is the mighty power? Love, he replied. I'll continue. This life, in all its phases, its multiform developments, its heights and depths, is but a grand commentary on the one word. Love is the only study we pursue, the food we eat, the life we live, and it is to participate in joys of this inexhaustible knowledge that you are now invited. So I've asked the questions. Well, actually, this for me was realizing that as I didn't know that God existed when I was younger, which I was angry about, I was also a bit pissed off about this because we were learning to do maths and French and history and all these different subjects. And yet they're saying here that the key to everything, the practical principles of life, it's love. And why has nobody ever taught us this? So I was a bit annoyed about that. But I also noticed how Eusemos says, if you desire, if you wish. So I started to question also, well, I guess I didn't have a desire then, or it was a distorted desire, I feel from my upbringing. And actually, how much is my desire now? It just feels like tepid tea a lot of the time. I'm not really desiring it. So so my questions were about what are your feelings and thoughts about this key and its duty on earth? And I actually feel that duty part, because that's a bit of a heavy word, a bit like responsibility. It feels like once you're more aware of the love, that the duty is automatically that you want to be of duty. When you have more awareness of love, you have a more automatic desire to be of duty, to basically to help others.
My feeling is that I'm paraphrasing here, that we were given the gift of free will, and with that powerful gift comes the responsibility and accountability for the correct use of it. And therefore we own penalty for misusing free will, not in harmony with love and truth. So I feel like the duty is imposed on us to learn the right use of free will. That's where I went with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I still cringe at the word, but you know.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. But I guess when we learn what God's love is, what is God's view of love, then it won't feel like the heaviness of a duty. It will be something that we just want to do.
Well, maybe we have to release our emotions about the word duty. I mean, I'm triggered.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think yes, definitely. Yeah. So my questions are basically about what you feel about this, the key of love, and how come you weren't taught about it. And for the benefit of this group, we're going to ask another question in a moment, but let's just start with this.
Let's stick with this.
Yes. So Anybody got any thoughts that they would like to share or feelings? Miss Judith?
Well, I obviously, like all of us, I think we grew up with a really distorted view of love,
Right.
you know, and God was someone that we were supposed to love, but we didn't even know what God was, you know. So we were supposed to, and then we were certainly supposed to love our parents, and then our parents were mean to us at times. So that just was, you know, kind of really distorts your feeling of love. But I guess in this book, what it's saying is, you know, if we understand God's love and God's construct, and we do everything according to God's love, everything falls into place. It makes it very easy.
Yeah.
But
I really like what you said there. How do you love someone you don't know? You're supposed to love God, but I don't know who that is. That's brilliant. I love it. That's good. Because that's the process I'm going through with re-educating the hurt child, is like slowly there's part of me that's saying, I really like God. He's cool. And I'm like, oh, good. I like this person. Eventually I will love them. And I like this person because I'm getting to know them. So there's this whole journey that needs to happen. So yeah, thank you, Judith.
yeah, and there's also the fact that, like, I still have judgments about love, like love makes you weak, you know. I remember going on Facebook and posting something, and they told me that I told them something about love, and they said, oh, that fairy dust is nothing, you know, it won't make any. So, but it's, my own personal judgments that I have to work through.
Yeah, and actually you're saying that, Judith, it's like you can have an intellectual concept that, yes, love is all powerful, but we don't really feel that, and we don't feel that love from God's perspective majority of the time. And I love also that you mentioned about God, because it's like, yes, as you said, who is God? And the only figures that you get are this like bearded man in the heavens, and that was my father, so that was definitely not love. Yeah, thank you, Judith. I don't know who's next, but I'm going with Michaela.
I remember when Jesus used to like sort of say, oh, I'm going to tell you now what you need to do in regards to changing your life or whatever. And I'd be like, great, he's going to tell us. And then he'd say something like love and prayer. And I'd be like, oh, great. What am I supposed to do with that? You know? And I'm starting to understand now, though, that it's so much more about like our mind is completely in control, and it's just not, it doesn't have a place here. It's got to be about starting to become more sensitive to even get a sense of what this love could possibly be. So that's what I just was really am sort of noticing at the moment, that in order to start to become more sensitive, you've really got to be prepared to let go of the mind. And you're talking about how at school you're taught French and English and maths, and it's all like this huge focus on the intellect and no focus on the sensitivity and the feelings. And that's where I feel like we feel so lost in this journey towards God, because we're still trying to do it intellectually, which just doesn't bring anything except frustration and confusion.
Well, I would take exception for math. I love math. It was my happy place. It was just, I cannot describe the joy of doing math as a child. It was so beautiful. Still is. The one thing I would do just for fun. So math's okay.
I'm sure when we've all grown in our souls more, because one of God's languages is math, that we'll all love math.
I could just feel how orderly the world is, and it makes sense, and everything is in harmony, and so beautiful. So, and I'm just talking about algebra and pre-calculus. I'm not even talking about all the other math that can come after. It was already so delightful.
Or like Michaela, like us exploring the flowers more, or nature more, and seeing the precision of the numbers of everything, the numbers of petals, the numbers of everything, just everything so perfect. Yeah. But there's a part for me in this about the practical principles. So when you said that, Michaela, it's like there is a practicality, but we're so used to using our mind. But when we just go into our breath, just go and hang out in nature, there's something that happens to us that we actually, I feel we become more practical. I have more of a practical awareness about some things.
And Michaela brought up another thing here, which is the awareness of what is this love thing? Like, what is it? Like, we're going to have to be like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and become, so what's this love thing? And how do you even begin to ask questions? Like, I don't even know where to go with, what is the next question to even ask about love? Like, to know that I don't know what love is a good place to start. To not know that love is the whole point of the whole freaking thing is another place. A lot of tantrums there. But I was just thinking, if I had passed away the way Afra has, I'd probably have to have a tantrum room. You tell me one truth, off I go, blow up, come back, give me one more, go blow up again. It'll be explosive. But, you know, it's actually, Michaela brought up a good point. Like, well, then how do you start the journey of going, so what's this love thing? How do you even start the journey of experimenting and questioning and learning?
Because it feels so wishy-washy. It doesn't feel solid. But it is, when you do feel even a little ounce of it, it feels solid. But for sure, don't have enough to have it fully solid yet. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna have to start with 0. I don't know anything about it.
I found as well, like when Jesus did give us sort of, there was a couple of talks where he sort of gave us dot points of what we could do, like drink more water, eat better, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And even then it's like, great, I can do this. And I never did. And so it was sort of really just being honest that I don't want to do it and I don't believe in it, and just starting at that point. And that was when I feel like I started to be able to unravel the intellect a little bit. Was like you say, Mila, having that tantrum about how much you don't want to do it or you don't believe in it. And there's just one little section in that phrase that really resonated with me, that gave me some more information. And the revelations that await the soul on arrival here are calculated to overpower until you have been taught the simple key by which everything is solved. I feel like that finally helped me to understand why there's a hell. And I've never really been able to understand that. But that sense that God is bringing stuff so close into your face that you have to be overwhelmed by it in order to learn about love. It was cool to understand that more about hell.
And also in that same sentence, that bringing up the math again, maths. Calculated, it's calculated, like precisely. And it's a simple key. It's going to unlock the door. Everything's solved. Yes, it's huge, this, if and when we can get it,
but it's already around us. It's already being perfectly calculated in every second and every movement that we make. It's like right here, you know.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
You saying I don't want to, reminded me of, I was definitely in a place today, I do not want to do book group, I am not doing it. Like, what excuse can I make? I'm not going. But anyway, I'm glad to be here. So Jill, would you like to share your insights?
Sure. So I was taught about God, that God's a punishing God. And if you don't live a good life, God will kill you. That was the God that I was taught. Ouch. So I had punishing parents. I didn't need to know about a punishing God as well. Like, it's like, I've got enough. Thank you very much. I don't need any more. So I kind of really didn't pursue it any further because I believed what I was being told. On some level, and I guess intellectually I did, because feeling it through, I don't think I really actually believed it. It's how I coped. I'm like, okay, God, you go over there. I don't want to talk to you because you're bad. If that's what you are, you're bad. So I never really explored it. And even now, trying to sort of work my way backwards to God, and actually really work in the fact that God is not who I was taught. And feeling through that is sort of where I'm at right at the moment. And then you add love into all of that. And it's like, excuse me? What? Because I was also taught that you can't live on love. So anytime that, I was not necessarily as a kid, because love was demanded. You have to love your parents, love your siblings, you have to love your family. Outside of that, doesn't matter, but you have to love these people. And so I had to love those people, the people that hurt me and did all this damage and squashed and all of that. I have to love them. And then when I was preparing to go out on my own, look for a husband kind of thing, when I was, in that 20-year range, whatever that looks like, I would come home like, oh, I met this great guy, I love him. And they're like, and my mom immediately said, oh, well, what does he do? What does he do for a living? Because you can't live on love. And it's like, oh, okay, well, so I just shut it all down. And unfortunately, now I have to bring it all back up again.
Oh,
and
gosh.
So it's.
But you have feelings about love and duty already. Because for you, love is a duty. You have to perform.
Yeah, I would say it's a duty. I don't know, duty doesn't feel right. It's more like a demand.
Yeah.
Expectation. It doesn't matter what you feel. It's an expectation. You have to. So figuring out.
But the love that was expected of you was addiction. So it's not even love.
It wasn't even love.
Yeah. So in that place of, well, what is it then? Teach me.
Yeah, exactly. So
a place of
openness
and curiosity.
And going back to the beginning of it, like you said, I don't know anything about love. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to sort of weed out the expectations. So what I was sort of taught as far as those expectations, and when realizing that they are part of that addiction kind of thing and recognizing them as they come up. But so yeah, I would be at ground zero. I'd be like, I have no idea what love is.
So, instead of trying to work it out in your mind, you could ask your guides to teach you about love. Come up with a list of questions, get them to teach you, like Afra is having all his guides teaching him by giving emotions, and it's more visceral, more real. It may challenge your control addiction a little bit of like, I'm supposed to figure this out, I'm supposed to sort it out myself, versus surrendering, going, show me.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And I want evidence. I can see it. Gosh, how on earth can you develop a relationship with God when God is such a terrible person? Awful. Thank you for telling us all that, Jill. Wow. Selena.
When I read this line, that legitimate duty of earth is to ground the soul in the practical principles of love, my first thought was, oh, so for hundreds of, I don't know how many tens of thousands of years, man has gone around going, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
It's like right there. It's in that sentence. So if we even understand some of that, like the meaning of life that many very intelligent people have pondered for a very long time, it's right there.
Yeah.
So if we just spend our lives even trying to understand what that sentence means, we're good. In my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's room for you to ask the question, well, what is love anyway? Which then opens the door, because when you have a desire, you open your soul to receive. So now your guides and God himself can step in there and teach you, because that will be the beginning of your relationship of getting an education in love.
Yeah.
Going, well, then what is it? And here we go. First day of preschool.
And it's huge. It's no small stuff. It's the
No.
meaning of life.
Yeah,
Holy
I love
crap.
the way you always bring it to Mila. Or how do you feel, like our guides or God?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this? Before, it's almost like that's an inspiration to go on to, well, what am I feeling? And where's this come from? But that first question, how do you feel about it? It sort of gives me a goal to go to, and help. And I love that help. How, teach me.
Well, we
Show
don't
me
have a point of reference. And because our guides will give us an emotional point of reference, once you have a point of reference, now you have a tag. I call it a tag. That's So, okay. Should we
ask the question of Afra? This is Mila's suggestion to do this. So there's a question there. For the benefit of this group and ourselves individually, how can we develop this key of love? So we're asking that of Afra, and Mila's going to just pause the recording.
Rephrase the question.
Please do.
Asking Afra now, guys, the question, where do I start my journey that the meaning of life is love? Where do I start my journey with that?
Okay.
Where do I,
Off we go.
Or word it differently for you if that doesn't have an emotional resonance. It's like, why should I even bother learning about love? Convince me. If that's where you're at, that's where you ask. All right. All right. Question, where do I start on my journey of learning about love, or however that shows up for you? Who would like to share? Alicia.
So I'll share. I didn't really get very many words, but I got mostly images. And I actually asked, the question that came to me was, show me the point of learning about love, and how I can best engage it for myself and within the group. So I first had just some words: being transparent, truthful, humble, feel your fears, challenge your addiction, or just all those things, but be humble basically. And take actions. And then I had images of being this pinpoint, like I was this pinpoint, tiny little dot. And I could feel that as I allowed myself to engage in love, because I felt very vulnerable in this place, like I didn't know anything, that as I learned, it would create ripples. And it was like seeing the prismatic landscape, actually, in a way. I felt like these ripples, and all these pathways would open up. And then I had also this image of, I don't know if you know those, what are they called? They're like a salt timer that they're open and then they go narrow and then they widen again. I felt like I'm in the middle of that, just allowing myself to open to that. And I felt love in this moment there. By the time I got to the end of it, I felt love as solid as a rock. And even if it's a pinpoint, it's solid as a rock. Whereas most of the time for me, it's just felt a bit, just like water. It's lovely because it flows, but it just feels all wishy-washy for sure. So that's what I got anyway.
Thank you. Others? Michaela?
I feel like my theme for this week is the intellect versus the emotion. Yeah. And so what I got was about how, we have such a high measure of what success is and how to be, just how to be worthy on the planet, right? And it's all intellect, and it's basically probably most of it's wrong. So to just keep putting my question and my curiosity and my intellect towards God, of wanting to understand God's perspective on every moment, and just to keep recognizing, like, again, the theme this week has been that we're infants, like because I can be
Yeah.
so judgmental of someone, and I'm just being judgmental based on this false measure of what success is. You know, when actually we're all really just learning to walk. That's it. So just really keeping the perspective of there isn't the pressure to be successful, and that's not how we succeed here. So just to keep asking for God's opinion on how we succeed here, basically.
Okay, thank you.
I love that you said learning to walk too, because that's the one time we're encouraged.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Michaela. Selena?
What I got, I felt was pretty personal based on where I am right now. And what really resonated, my question basically was, how do I start to find the meaning of love, and how do I ground my soul in the principles of love? I just really, that statement just really fascinates me, grounding my soul. I want to understand that better.
Nice.
And judgment is what came up. Judgment, because that's been coming up a lot for me, judging others, accepting judgment from others, and how when you recognize that, how that just opens you up to truth when you recognize that you're in judgment.
Okay.
To truth and love, like how much more open you are to love.
Okay, wow. This is probably a question you could ask on a regular basis, because you'll be going through chapters by chapters. There's probably a whole syllabus, whole treatment plan already set in plan for us. That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
It's great. Michael?
Yeah, I like this. I used to think of love as just giving something without expectation of return. But the question makes me think, well, love is the subject and the object. It is both the goal and the means to it. And it's a measure of the way things are going in the moment. Where love is, there is growth and qualities of heaven. It is a grease for growth. It is a nutrient for the soul. It's a marker of our spiritual condition in the moment. But in the physical world, say temperature, airspeed, amount of light, those are markers. So the amount of love that we feel would be a marker for our spiritual condition and the circumstance we're in. It is evidence of a condition of soul. It's optimal for the health. When the soul is feeling love, it's in an optimal condition for growth and health and expansion. And good things happen when a soul feels love. We're open to influences, higher spirits. The good qualities are associated with love, as well as higher beings and God. It's also an energy. It can be exchanged, I think. And what you were just talking about, love is like purity. And so where there's love, there is an absence of fear. And where there's love, there is a flow of emotion. And where there is love, there is an absence of anger and judgment. So I can see why they can say how love is so important, because where love is present, so many good things are present and so many harmful things are not present.
What were when you asked that question, what kind of emotional state were you in?
It was
those are awesome answers. It's like, Michael, whatever state you were in when you asked that question, that's a good place for you. Like, where did you come from when you asked that question? How were you able to receive all that?
I was just willing. I just wanted to get more than I wanted to do more than superficial than like I normally do.
Wow. Man, you foster that place. Foster that desire. That was that was awesome. Wherever that question came from, that place in you that allow for such answers to come in, that's a good place. Yeah, tag that one, pin it. All right, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, that
Was there
was
more?
great. I think anybody else want to add anything?
Lisa.
Well, now that Michael's spoken,
No.
of course, it triggers up my unworthiness, which is what
Awesome.
I'm working with during the group, which is why I'm quiet. I'm just letting myself feel. And of course, as soon as I went off and asked the question in sincerity, I just teared up because the immediate response was, see your own preciousness, like that you have something to offer too. So yeah, just self-acceptance and self-love for me right now is what I need to focus on and what I'm going through right now. And that as Alicia said recently when she helped me with a session, that'll spill over into loving others, and accepting others is when I accept and love myself more. So I'm struggling with that, but the group's bringing it up. But I feel so much love in this room, so I'm feeling more safe. So thank you.
It kind of adds up to what Michael just said, but it also kind of antidote addictions, because you're taking responsibility for giving or receiving what you want from your guides. And that kind of takes the pressure off of others. Like, you're like, I'm responsible to love me. I will know how. And in ways in which I don't know how, I will ask from God and my guides. I mean, imagine how that just turns off addictions. How cool is that?
Yeah, and I'll be in a lot more solid place, hey, not just having a big vortex coming out of me towards everybody. So hopefully, yeah, but I'm not there yet. I'm working towards it. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
So no one else. So let's move on. Or Michael has something else to add.
Just a quickie. Like I'm feeling like I had the same emotion as Lisa has had about, feeling unworthy. That's why I haven't said I mean, there's great stuff coming out of this and I want to absorb it. And I just want to say, Mila, you encourage you encourage me to be where I am without downplaying myself, without bringing up feelings of unworthiness. I can kind of go, oh, this is okay, I'm not there, but then I don't have to go into that unworthy feeling.
Wow. How did I do that? I gotta replicate it. Thank you. Okay,
thanks.
Yeah.
I just had one more thing to add, and that was right after that. It was also, don't justify the lie that you're not as good as others. That there's a way in which addictively you can go into justifying that I can, or that I'm better than others. So just to really catch that I wanted to add.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Lisa and Michael.
So
Judith.
One way I'm challenging my addictions for word is that I basically told myself and my hurt self, I will never have word in the world. I will never have word. Give it up. It's never going to happen. The only word I'll ever have is the one that God has already given me, and that's it. Just drop it. So that triggers a heartbreak, that triggers more emotion, but the anger about not getting what and that I should be getting what drops. That drops because you ain't gonna get it. Give it up.
That's brilliant.
At least takes you into the grief. And the answer I got from my question was, where do I start? Is to start to ask the question, why is love so important to God? That was the answer I got for me to start investigating. Why is love so important to you? They are encouraging me to start because that's is where I'm most open to my journey. So now I'm going, well, yeah, actually, God, what is this thing with love in you? Like, why are you so fluffy and so touchy-feely? So anyway, I can take that relationship to God. Thank you.
So Judith.
I didn't want to say anything because mine was more about, it was like ask your guides. And so because I have trouble reaching my guide right now, that was all about, my answer was more about that. But I wanted to piggyback on what Lisa said, because a while back ago, I mean, it was probably 2 years ago, where I got really emotional and I was asking God, like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I was expecting this laundry list of all the things that I'm doing wrong. And I got this pretty distinctive voice. It must have been my guide telling me, you don't know how precious you are.
Ooh.
And it was so real. And that's the thing, you know, that I just wanted to tell Lisa. I mean, it's like we're all there.
You're all there.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to feel it.
Yeah.
And drop the anger about somebody else's having the job of giving you what. It just justify all kind of blame and repercussions, and it's just, I mean, I've done it so long, and even I was looking for words, like that's what the anger was about. Oh my God. Yeah,
you're not important unless, you know, you're valued by people of the world.
And yeah, it's a long list,
Which has all come from childhood, when you felt like you weren't. Well, yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. I like that.
but just drop it. Just drop seeking what, period. From, like, you just tell yourself, you're just never going to get what, period. You can only get it from God, whatever you've got, which is in itself a joke. You know, if you could even stand a half a second of feeling God's word for you, like, you know, that's a dare for you. Go feel that for half a second. God, show me my word. You know, you'd be bawling for a year, but it's a way of tongue in cheek with yourself, going, I will never have words than what God gave me. Oh my God, what a sorry life. You know, so bit of humor there. Go ahead.
Michael, you wanted to add something? Michael, you wanted to add something? Yeah. You're mute, Michael.
Did it backwards. It's like the most humble spirit. The greatest spirit is also happens to be the most humble spirit, right? And he says, the more I learn, this, like the smaller I feel, or the bigger the ocean is, or, you know, the more childlike. So there's something about hand in hand, we become more, there's a quality of being childlike that makes us receptive to these things.
Yeah. But it also comes when you're feeling like, you know what, I'm really not all that important. I'm okay. It's fine. You feel free. I mean, that's where I'm at. I tantrum about not being important. And I'm going, I don't even matter. Why do I matter? I don't even matter. I could die tomorrow. It's not a thing. It's okay. And suddenly I feel free, and I want to go skip, and I want to dance. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm feeling freer from having dropped from, the fact that I'm not important makes me go, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to go to be me. Go be me. So yeah, there's got to be something there. Thank you, Michael, for the correlation. If you look at the guides described in the book and how free they feel. So thank you. So let's move on to.
I'd just like to add that that's just you saying that not important is just bringing up some emotions for me. So, but let's carry on. So page 25. There's a part that, well, actually, I'd like to just start with the bit before. I notice how you appeal to reason in all your illustrations. And he replied, all laws have their root and center in God, and therefore capable of being reasoned upon so far as we can comprehend them. The so-called natural laws are spiritual laws translated into requisite expressions for physical existence, and if rightly understood, would serve as an index to spiritual progression. So I've got this to a certain extent, but I'd really love to just hear what you're receiving from this. And this sort of, for me, also relates back to his description of the prismatic landscape, of all the beautiful colors that he can't really describe, etc. So anyway, I just would love to hear what you perhaps have to share about this part.
Are there any laws you observe in nature that make you wonder or make you start to reflect on God's nature? That therefore God must be this way too. Jill?
That I can comment on.
Yeah.
You mentioned it before that in nature, when you look at a tree or a flower, flowers are the most evident, like it's blatantly obvious that it's very organized, very mathematical, very succinct, and very on purpose. So and you look at a big like spruce tree or pine tree or any sort of tree like that, every branch is grown in a specific way. It's grown so that it maximizes the light that's coming from the sun. Same with the flower, the petals are organized succinctly, like in a specific order. And that's about the only thing I know that tells me that God must be the same way. Like everything is done on purpose, not just one purpose, usually at least two purposes. That it's like maximizing the potential of something.
Yeah.
And so it's, a flower is really pretty, but that's not its only function. And every flower out there has multitudes of different functions. So that tells me that the creator of this, God, has said, okay, well, I want to make something beautiful, but it also has to be functional. So that multi-purpose, no wastage type of thing.
Jill, why don't you let God show you that? Don't answer for God. Let God answer that.
No, that's what God has answered me.
Okay.
That everything is done in multitudes. Like, the multitude is not the right word. I'm sorry, but everything is done for a purpose, and it's not just one purpose. It's different kinds of purposes.
So you could actually have a lot of fun with that, because you're happy to talk to that God. So you could actually look at things going, God, what's your purpose for this one? And then wait for an answer, because you don't know the answer. And it's okay that you don't know the answer. You're not supposed to know. God loves a vacuum, loves a sponge. That's the thing. Yeah. So you could, pick up a branch tomorrow. You could pick up the Pacific Ocean versus Atlantic Ocean and go, God, what's your purpose for this versus that? That's your opening right there. You're neutral right there. You like that God. So ask.
Yeah.
You could have a lot of fun with that. Those were how I started with God. Innocent third-party stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Judith?
Yeah, the land always rejuvenates itself. So, for example, there was a big wildfire here back in 2013, or actually it was probably 2016, but a hiking area I go to burned. And you go back there now and it's rejuvenated. The bushes are back. You can still see some of the sticks of trees that were burned are there, but they're going to degrade and, go back to the earth, and the land will be as God intended. So nature always rejuvenates itself. And so that's true of our soul. We can always rejuvenate it. We can always get back.
Yeah. Oh, doesn't that give you like your faith right there is just zinging out of you right now. Yeah. Look at that. Whew.
And I like what Jill said too, because I just saw a video of a donkey sanctuary saying the donkeys in nature will dig in the ground for water, and then they find the water, and then the smaller little insects and reptiles will drink out of that water from where the donkey is. So you could spend a life thinking of discovering all the purposes.
It's fun, Jill. Go to it. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
So I want to just mention though, because those are the sort of things that I personally see anyway, but the thing that's confusing to me in this is the requisite expressions for physical existence and the index for spiritual progress. Also, maybe you've just touched upon that, Judith, in saying that, yes, this is showing that we can rejuvenate, our soul can rejuvenate. But the index, like, is that what it's showing us? That there's it's like it's not really showing me, or I'm not really feeling in what's being said here by Afra, is what actually, or Eusemos, is what actually is it that we need to look for to help us grow, to help us show us the way.
Yeah, it seems pretty complicated how it's putting
Yeah, I
it.
mean, I also see all those things in nature and the perfection of God in that, but I feel like it's saying something else, and I'm not getting it, but maybe there isn't something else. And
Yeah, could be more.
Also, I notice with land, when it gets damaged, is that it kind of becomes, I don't know if it becomes a little bit more unique. So it's like our things that happen to us make us a little unique experiences.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. Lisa?
And also more diversity comes back, because all the seeds that have been dormant when a fire comes through are given a chance to germinate. So all the biodiversity that we've lost, something about the full burning down process. So if we could apply that to ourselves and our soul, right?
Yeah.
If, as we're going through the complete stripping of, say, one facade that we recognize and accept and are willing to let go of and deconstruct, hey, all that can come forth from that.
Dormant qualities.
oh yeah, that makes sense for me. That's, yeah, like just go into the overwhelm, because that's going to open up all those new seeds. Okay.
And also I wrote down here just certain examples from nature that really strike me as amazing potentiality. So the seed being one, as a metaphor for so many things, but how the soul works, right? What a seed can do and give rise to, like an immense oak tree out of just one acorn. I think it could be, in the Bible, they use that metaphor a lot. Like whatever you sow, if you choose to sow negatively or if you choose to sow positively, that can just, our free will is powerful. But then I also wanted to mention butterflies and all those creatures that go through a complete metamorphosis process.
Mm-hmm.
Why would God create those creatures for us to observe that they go through this complete liquefaction, sort of like, I wonder if that's possible for us as human beings, that we could completely change what we are and become something completely different. I wonder if Jesus thought those things when he was a kid in the 1st century. So those are just a few of the examples from nature that I thought applied directly to, and Jesus mentioned the almond, right, as the soulmate halves, that he noticed only the two halves that he took apart would fit together. He tried fitting them with all the other almond halves, and then none of them fit. So there's just so many examples for us to learn about our soul and how God's created us if we look closely and inquire of God, I guess, like Mila was saying.
And how is it shown? How are we looking at that to see our progress? How do we look at that and see that's a part for me. How do we see our spiritual progress looking at nature?
I think the animals, for example, are always reflecting my emotions of the day, right? They're always like, if I go out when I'm loving versus when I'm in fear or anger, I mean, it's a constant mirroring. So
yeah, I have them right at home. So yes, I do notice that, but I haven't thought about it as that's showing if I'm not progressing or degressing. Yeah. Michael,
well, I'm sorry.
Oh, Lisa, sorry.
I apologize. Really quickly, I just thought of Jennifer's land, her degraded 40 acres she bought, and that as she grows in love, she's having these new creatures pop up, and like plants coming that never were there before. So more diversity is coming.
Mhm.
There's more harmony. The creatures aren't eating out her garden all the time and, attacking her as she works through her emotions. So she's getting
Yeah.
constant feedback.
Which is what Jesus always talks about too. Yeah. So Michael, you had your hand up.
Yeah. I think, how can I say it? All around there's orderliness and purpose. And I take it for granted, and there's so much life that I think that some of it's not valuable. So I'm going to do a contrast. So this is where I'm leaving. And here as men, we judge each other, and we judge sexuality and forms of expression and couples and triples and quadruples and everything, and the value of a life form. So I'm thinking that God is orderly. Even wild animals, there's love between a parent and a baby. The babies have similar personalities, I thought of the moon, and how the moon is like helps stabilize our rotation, gives us stability, gives men and women something to look up for and like try to reach, that's close enough to reach. It inspires us, it creates the tides. It's a guide at night. It's poetic for our souls. So I think one thing that the natural world does is it engenders an appreciation for things that are unseen, for God's creation. So it creates a sensitivity of the soul, and that can be a measure of spiritual progression. So I'm not finding a direct link, but the appreciation of what God has done and what I could learn from it. Like, diversity is good, that would answer the question for me.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I can see for myself in everybody's answers, these things feel almost natural to me, and I think I got caught up in the words in the chapter rather than just go into nature and be aware of that. Yeah.
All right, I just paused recording there for a second just to check in with the group, but we're out of time. We're gonna have to stop our discussion here, and some beautiful pointers left, but I'm sure we'll have other opportunities to discuss those in future time. So thank you, and I will see you guys next week.
Thank you.